So the 44 Special has made a comeback because these guns are very compact in 44 caliber, big bore pistol. And there's some factory ammo for it that's pretty powerful. And we want to reload the same. So suppose you're one of those shooters who wants to take your 44 Special, your strong 44 Special revolver, and go hunting with it. So you gather up what you need. You got your reloading dies. You got your once fired 44 Special brass. You got a couple of good bullets and a couple of good powders. So now you want to look for reloading data that'll get you the performance you want and the performance you need to go hunting with these bullets. And that's because these bullets are both 180 grains jacket hollow points made by two of our best firearms bullet making companies, and they've got great reputations in the hunting field against deer and mule deer and elk in close range shooting out to woods distances, and revolvers and lever actions, and they're made to expand reliably over a wide range of velocity, say from 950 all the way out to 1700 feet per second. Let's see what the reloading manuals have to say. So this happens to be a Hornady reloading manual, and that's appropriate since one of the bullets is a Hornady bullet. So I always tell newer reloaders that one of the first things we want to check when we got a reloading manual is to see what gun and barrel length was used to develop the data. So this is very eye-opening for the 44 Special here. The handgun was a Charter Arms Bulldog 3-inch barrel. Well, that happens to be a very light frame gun, and even though you can hunt with that, say out to 25 yards, to get out to 50 and 75, you don't have the feet per second that you really want. So all those loads there that you see on the upper right hand side are on the short side, 900, 950 feet per second at the muzzle. And as you try and get more out of it, the recoil becomes very prohibitive. But if you have a Charter Arms Bulldog, this is the book for you. So we turn to our trusty Lyman 50th edition reloading handbook. It talks about the 44 Special. They use a universal receiver with a 7.5-inch barrel. So we look at the 44 Special on the Lyman, and there it is. The 180 grain jacketed hollow cavity bullet, but there's only one problem with that. That's a Sierra bullet there. Could be a nozzler, but neither company makes a jacketed hollow cavity now. Sierra made a jacketed hollow cavity years ago, but it's been quite a while since the hollow cavity has been around. It's a hollow point now. When you look at this data, it's pretty obvious that they're looking at older guns that weren't that strong because the pressure is limited to 13,000 psi. Well, our guns are easily strong enough for 25,000, 30,000 psi, so we can definitely load more powerful ammunition, but it's not listed here in this section. However, do note that it gives some data for 2400 powder at a maximum charge of 15.8 grains of 2400 to only get a 851 feet per second velocity with 13,300 psi. So once again, let's keep in mind that the Lyman gave us a 15.8 grain charge as being a maximum charge of 2400 powder with 180 grain jacketed bullet. Now look at an earlier Sierra manual, and there you see 44 Special, 180 grain. That's exactly that jacket hollow cavity bullet. 2400 powder is listed at 20.7 grains. That's practically 5 grains heavier maximum charge to get 1150 feet per second, much better than the 850 or whatever it was back in the Lyman. Now, of course, we gotta go back and look what gun they used, and none other than, see, 44 Special. They used a Smith & Wesson model 1950 Target, and that was Elmer Keith's favorite 44 Special, along with the triple lock from 1910 and the hand ejector that came after that, all those end frames coming up to a 1950 Target. So today we have the Model 29, which is even stronger. Well, shooters and reloaders out there, here comes the kicker, and some of the frustrating things that we have to deal with when we're trying to shoot a more powerful 44 Special. You've seen the load in the earlier Sierra manual. Now, that's the Sierra reloading manual, 3rd edition, came along later. This is actually the handgun volume. Let's see what is in this one. Turn to the 44 Special, and there's that 180 grain jacketed hollow cavity bullet. Again, the jacketed hollow cavity was available when this manual was put out. And it lists 2400 powder with CCI Magnum primers, and it gives a 14.7 maximum for only 1,000 feet per second. What happened? How did we go from 20.7 grains maximum in the previous manual to 14.7 grains, which is 6 grains less for a lot less velocity? What happened? 2400 powder didn't change that much during the time frame. Elmer Keith still had a 17.5 grain Elmer Keith load with a 250 grain lead bullet, and this is a lot lighter jacketed bullet, so you would think you could go at least a 17.5. Again, what happened? Gun used for the testing, Smith & Wesson Model 24 with a 6.5-inch barrel. That's an end frame, very strong revolver in the same strength as a 1950 Target and before the end frame. Kind of frustrating. To add to our frustration, let's look at the Lee manual again, and you'll see, for example, the 45 Colt. In the 45 Colt, the pressure levels that are loaded here are to, say, 13,000 psi generally. And that's because of the weaker 45 Colt guns that were available. But Lee recognizes that there are stronger 45 Colt guns out there, like the Rugers and the Thompson Center Contenders. So they have a section here for Ruger and Thompson Center only. And these loads for the 45 Colt, see, 45 Colt, they're all loaded to 30,000 psi. We want the same thing for the 44 Special, but they don't do it for the 44 Special. Doesn't mean it can't be done, because the same thing is happening. We have Rugers that are very strong. We have 44 Magnum guns that are very strong, rated up to 36,000 psi and more. So why don't we have a section for the 44 Special to be fired in Ruger and Thompson Center and in 44 Magnum revolvers? We should have a section like that. That would really help things. So here's what we're going to do. There's no sense in buying these expensive jacketed bullets to shoot them at 850 feet per second. That's crazy. No way we're going to do that. You can bet, since I have this very strong Ruger Black Hawk revolver, that I'm going to use ammo that's good enough and potential enough to do the job. So what we're going to do is take our 44 Special loading data for 2400 powder, and you see 20.7 maximum. We're going to apply our normal reloading practices, which is to cut that by 10%, brings us down to 18.5, which is right here. But we're going to go one better. We're just going to cut down to the Keith load, 17.5 grain to 2400 powder. And instead of the 250 grain Keith lead bullet, we're going to use the 180 grain jacketed. It makes a lot of sense. So we're going to go with 17.5 grain 2400 powder and the 180 grain jacketed bullet, and we'll see what kind of pressure signs, extraction signs, recoil, all that kind of thing. And if they're safe, we can work up toward the 20.7, because there's nothing wrong with this data. This data was made with laboratory testing, pressure testing by Sierra. They had all their equipment. Nothing has really changed. For them to lower it to what they have in the current manuals is just a simple kind of legal kind of thing. It's not practical. We have a practical answer. So let's go with it. Look at that short bearing surface, another safety feature working in our favor. It really is interesting to see how the reloading companies have reverted to the same kind of thinking that kept the 44 Special underloaded back in the 1910s, 1920s, and 1930s. It took visionaries like Elmer Keith to reload the 44 Special to its potential. Just because the 44 Magnum is now existing because of the work of the 44 Special, there's no reason that the 44 Special needs to be kept down in terms of performance. So the overriding rule still remains, and that is, if our guns are strong, we can load our ammo to the potential that they have. Bye for now.